MLB props, WNBA props, NHL props, UFC props. That's right. We got you covered. Everything to help you turn a profit in the props betting market. Welcome to Prop It Up. I am Andy from WagerTalk.com, being joined as always by my fellow prop master, Andrew McGinnis. We're going to start with MLB. Andrew, it's kind of the dog days of summer now as, NHL and NBA are wrapping up. So a lot of people are turning their attention to MLB. Let's talk about a couple of props. We've got quite a few stats now to go off of. So what are some plays you're looking at for today in the MLB?
Andy, first of all, I got to shout out Ronald Kabang for the website he created with a few partners, because the moneyballer.com has been great for researching for the MLB. And one thing I've been dominating and looking at the most is like just splits, just looking at how certain teams play against righties, how certain teams perform against lefties. And there's been some really good scenarios for that over the last couple of weeks, over the last few days here. But in general, I love just looking at the most recent 3, 4, 5 games. You mentioned we have some data now. We have some stats to look at. But let's take a look at Jose Barrios today as he takes on the Pittsburgh Pirates here. He hasn't really had to play the toughest of opponents recently as a starting pitcher here for the Blue Jays, but he still hasn't looked all that great here over his last 5 starts, averaging over 5 hits allowed. He's giving up at least a home run per game, per start, at least 2 or 3 earned runs per start. To me, the best way to go is the under on Barrios K-prop strikeout. The guy's not striking out a ton of guys. He's walking a lot of batters, and he's more one of those ground ball type of pitchers. So when I look at Barrios, you can shop around. Some shops are going to give you 5.5. Some shops are going to give you 4.5, but you can get under at a pretty good plus price if you try and get that 4.5. So I'll look towards the under on Jose Barrios. To me, he has just not looked the same. As a Blue Jays fan, Andy, it seems like every 2 weeks, the best pitchers on the Blue Jays change. We don't know who the best guy is. 1 minute it's Kikuchi, 1 minute it's Barrios. Gosman's supposed to be our best guy, but we haven't really seen that much out of him. And then, this isn't really breaking news to anybody because I've mentioned it already so many times on the show, but it is worth mentioning. Patrick Corbin does start today. They have lowered his number to 3.5. So if anybody out there wants to be bold, if you feel like being bold, it's as Andy used to always say, and we say sometimes during the NFL season, when they change a guy from 5.5 to 4.5 down to 3.5, is this the time? Is this the time to switch and actually take the over? Part of me kind of thinks, Andy, in this matchup we could, but I don't know if I have it in me to do it here with Patrick Corbin and this Nationals team. Just looking at what the team overall has done recently, no matter who's been out there for them, they've been struggling. But I think that they've got a tough matchup today with the Guardians, who are actually hitting the ball very well. They don't strike out a ton, but I'm kind of leaning towards taking the over 3.5 strikeouts with Patrick Corbin, just because I kind of want to play contrarian here. And then last but not least, I'll just throw this out here. I think that a good little in-season tidbit, good little in-season play. I think that the Chicago Cubs have been on the wrong end of a lot of beats, a lot of losses. They've been right there. They're playing some good baseball. They do have a good farm system. I've been watching their games quite a bit this season. I believe they're underperforming. So their team total is a bet that I'm looking to make over the next week or two. Their offense is starting to come together a bit. I might start looking at divisional props for them and some futures. They're a team that I certainly have my eye on, but Andy, a lot of people love betting these over on strikeout props. I think the best way to go overall, though, on strikeouts, whenever I look at these, is just the under, because it's just so much better. Unless you're betting Paul Skeen props, you're better off looking towards the unders.
So I'm glad you brought this up. So here's the theory for those of you that don't know. And it's not necessarily a theory. I mean, this is something that just seems to happen. When you're riding a particular prop over and over and over, and it keeps hitting and it keeps hitting and it keeps hitting, as soon as the books make the adjustment and move the number, you just go the opposite way. And I swear, and Andrew, you're talking about Patrick Corbin. And yeah, it's tough when it is a guy like Patrick Corbin, but if you would do this 100 times, I think you win 80. of them. We see it all the time. And I don't know if you've noticed, this just happened in the NHL with Gustav Forsling. The books put him at 1.5 shots on goal every game, and every game he was getting 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3. They just moved it to 2.5, and I want to take the under so bad because it's like when the books finally make the move, it's like it's too late. And you're ready for regression to come that way. So yeah, if the books have made that move with Patrick Corbin, I think not only is it a contrarian play, I think it's a smart play. I think you're playing the numbers, not necessarily the player. So I like that one. A couple of baseball props I looked at. Jose Urena under 1.5 walks. When you look at his stats, this play is 13-1 to the under. I think it's time to go to the over, because this guy was a relief pitcher. He was only pitching like 1, 2, or 3 innings early in the year, and now he's starting, and he's pitching more innings. In the first start, he got 2 walks, but he's pitching 5 innings, 6 innings, and I just think the volume is there to where he just gets 2 walks here. So you're getting it's a little bit juicy to play, but when I look at a guy when the stats are like, well, it's 13-1 to the under, it's like, yeah, of course he went under when he was pitching 1 inning or 2 innings. So on the flip side, Luis Severino over 1.5 walks. My gosh, over in 8 out of 10 games this season, 3 or more in 4 straight games. He's just not controlling the ball very well. He's kind of all over the place. And when you're getting 1.5 walks and he's getting the 3 in 4 straight games, yeah, that has my attention. So I'm looking at the walks plays in this one. So guys, if you could, while you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button. It's a little token of appreciation to let us know we're doing a good job for you. It also helps the algorithm out. If you could leave us a comment, let us know what props that you're playing. Let us know what things have been working for you. Or if you're just watching and you don't really have a great comment, just put one word in there. Just let us know that you're watching, and it just helps us out when we're doing all these free videos. So hit the like button, leave us a comment, and if you have not subscribed to the WagerTalk YouTube channel, go ahead and do that now. Tons of baseball content, and we'll also have UFC breakdowns. Andrew and I doing our best to give you out some profitable information on props, all those videos, and of course, WagerTalk today every day at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So hit that subscribe button and like button. Andrew, let's go to UFC. I love this card from a betting perspective. It finally feels like UFC 300 was so amazing, and then it just took the wind out of the sails for the last few cards. I've done fine on the last few cards. This one, a lot more bettable. I think I'm going to have more volume on this one. So some pretty good props in this one. I'll go to you. What are some props that you're looking at for UFC 302, Makhachev versus Poirier?
It's going to be a great card, Andy. It's super exciting. As you and I always talk about, look, there's money to be made on the not so exciting and exhilarant cards, the fight nights. But of course, these are the cards everyone gets hyped up for, and this is definitely the biggest one since the UFC 300. One I'll start us off with here, Andy. I think that Sean Strickland, Paulo Costa, no matter the price, we're going to the distance on this one. With the kind of guy that Strickland is, with just kind of how he talks and like how he goes about himself, would you really take that guy to be a distance type of fighter, a points fighter? Not really, right? I mean, if you look at the kind of guy that he is, like, you think that he wouldn't want to win by going to the judges. But when you look at both Costa and Strickland, both of them have a chin. They can absorb a ton of strikes, 6.38 strikes, and only a strike defense of 47% for Costa. As far as Strickland, 4.33 strikes and a strike defense of 62%. But look at the record. Both these guys have gone to the distance a ton of times, especially recently. And I think coming off that last fight for Strickland, I think he's going to be motivated, but he's going to want to have a really, really smart game plan. And you kind of just saw how he was. Remember when he won the belt? I mean, when he fought Izzy, it was the most cautious, careful approach we've ever seen out of him. Just that awkward stance that he had. And same thing for Costa. He hasn't really been good either. He's been a little bit shaky, and he's been getting caught early in fights, which kind of puts him back. I think both fighters are very careful, very hesitant, playing for points, especially early on. This is going to be a long fight, Andy, but I think the best bet here is that these guys put the fight in the judge's hands. So I'll take this fight, the co-main, to go the distance this weekend.
I like it. There's a couple that jump out. This is starting to get juiced up, but it's a fine parlay piece. If you have books where you can play the points, like the +3.5, I'm loving these. So what the +3.5 is it's the total of the judge's scorecard. So if you have a fighter that you have plus 3.5 and scores 49-48, even though the fighter loses, it's just a point spread. In US, there's a couple that I love here. Jocelyn Edwards +3.5 against Eileen Perez. I think Edwards wins this fight, to be honest. She's low volume, which has been an Achilles heel of hers, but Eileen Perez is going to want to wrestle and take this to the ground. And Jocelyn Edwards is no slouch in the takedown defense department and the wrestling. She's got very strong legs, a really good base to build from. And there is some real beef about this, Andrew. I don't know if you've read the story about Eileen Perez and Jocelyn Edwards. So they got in a fight backstage, and it has come out that Eileen Perez's coach, who's a dude, put Jocelyn Edwards in a choke and almost put her unconscious. Like they had to pull this guy off of Jocelyn Edwards. So if Jocelyn Edwards has been low volume in the past, if ever there's a fight where she's going to come out and want to, kick some ass, it's probably in this one. One of the other selling points of this +3.5 is Eileen Perez gasses in the third round. We saw it against Pudilova in her last fight. She just gets tired. So even if Perez wins the first 2 rounds, I think Edwards comes out and wins the third round. So either way, I think Edwards is a live dog in this one. I love her price to win, but the +3.5 is absolutely something to look at. Another +3.5, Phil Rowe. He's fighting Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews disappoints as a favorite every single time. His striking's not that great. His wrestling's not that great. And Phil Rowe has an 80-inch reach. 80 inches. And for a guy like Jake Matthews that, his defense on the striking is okay, but he's going to be at a real disadvantage here. I think this fight's pretty boring. I do not expect a lot of volume, but I get a guy that's going to be able to keep Jake Matthews at bay with the jab, and all I need to do is have him win a round. And Jake Matthews has this long history of being a just massive disappointment when he's a big favorite. I will absolutely take that one. So last one I have, Randy Brown and Zaleski over 2.5. Randy Brown is just like the ultimate, he just looks like he should just win every fight, like going away, but he doesn't. He's got these long legs and this reach. He finally knocked somebody out last week, but that guy I think was older than my father, or in his last fight, and he finally gets a finish, and now he gets Zaleski. Zaleski's a tough guy. He's tough to get out of there. He's high pressure. I think the crowd's going to love him and be on his side because he's going to push the pressure, but Randy Brown just doesn't finish guys unless they're very old. And I think you're going to see him kind of use his kicks and use his jabs to try and keep things at bay. I think this is a classic Randy Brown fight where it goes the distance, and the announcer comes out and it's like, Judge 1 scores it, and you're like, oh, great, here we go, split decision, or something real close. But either way, I think this goes the distance. I don't see a world in which Zaleski finishes Randy Brown. And Randy Brown's track record of finishing guys, not that great. So any other UFC props that you like, Andrew?
Andy, I'm curious your thoughts on this one. I'm gonna go to the plus price department on this one and give you Nico Price by KO TKO +350. This matchup to me is so interesting. It's a battle of who is not going to screw up. I mean, who is going to break their bad streak, right? When you've got Morano versus Price here, you've got 2 guys that have struggled recently. And of course, Price on a 1-4 streak over his last 5 hasn't looked very good. Morano himself has faced some lighter opponents, some harder opponents, and still struggled. But I go back, and this is many years ago, but I still like looking in UFC always at these head-to-head matchups. The last time they fought, Price won in the second round via knockout. The fight was overturned after he tested positive for none other than marijuana. Wow. All right. So marijuana was what really helped him secure that knockout. I'm going to go right back to it. He struggled. A lot of times, Andy, I'm the kind of guy with UFC handicapping. When I see a guy in a bad streak, I'm not jumping in front of that. I'm just going to keep fading that guy. But in this particular situation, if you look at the money line price that they're giving Morano in this one, I think it's just too generous. I think the number that they're giving, it's too steep. It's not generous enough. It's too steep. So I think the price, and let's be real here. If it goes to the points, Price is not winning. He has to finish the fight on his feet, go out on his own terms. And I think that's a pretty good price. So that'll be my plus money play of the weekend here in the UFC. What do you think?
Yeah, the price on Morano is ridiculous. Like that's priced because they think Nico Price is just going to get knocked out and that his chin is gone. Maybe it is gone. He got knocked out like within 38 seconds against Robbie Lawler. I'll just say I have questions about that fight. I'll just say I'm not really sold that everything was on the up and up in that one. But yeah, we just watched Alex Morano barely get by Court McGee. Court McGee was done and almost won that fight, and then he retires. So Morano could barely win against Court McGee. Morano's got pillow hands. I don't see him knocking out Price, even though Price's chin is gone. So I'm with you, and you're right. If Price is going to win, it better be by finish because he's probably not going to outpoint Morano. So I'm with you. I like that one. Instead of, if you want to give yourself a much, much better price on it, yeah, go ahead and grab Nico Price there. So, all right, let's move to, I'll give out one NHL prop. I got to be honest, Andrew, I have not done a whole lot with these two games or these two series. I've been riding Chris Kreider under his shots on goal. He killed me last night because he got over, I think, like early in the second period. But the only one that I keep noticing is Evander Kane just doesn't have a point. They keep it at minus 160, has no points in this series, and his shots on goal have plummeted the last two games. I was terrified to play him because I think he had like 4 and 5 shots on goal. He was around the net several times. It just didn't happen. Last couple games, though, not as involved. So Evander Kane not to have a point. I will just say, the Edmonton Oilers over 1.5 team total is the parlay gift that keeps on giving. This is just, you just rinse and repeat and throw it with your favorite parlay piece. I've thoroughly enjoyed this one. The bankroll has thoroughly enjoyed this one as well. And I think you could do that with a couple teams. But have you been doing much with NHL props? Because I haven't found a whole lot of great opportunities in these series.
Yeah, you mentioned the Edmonton Oilers over 1.5 as that parlay leg. Jake Ottinger over 2.5 goals allowed, goals against, has cashed in 3 of the last 4 games overall, 7 of his last 9 games overall against Edmonton. One thing I like just from an overall handicap perspective, Andy, is that we've seen both these teams in the last 2 games take a punch, take a hit early on in the game and come back. It's almost like whatever team goes up 2 goals, they're going to lose that one. You better not get a 2-goal lead in this series because you're going to lose if you go up 2 goals here. But, a new one that I've been interested in, Andy, actually is the block shots department. Miro Heiskanen over 1.5 block shots. Desharnais over 1.5 block shots for the Oilers. What's interesting about this, and I'm sure you'll like it, is the fact that they're putting these lines out and these props out, not adjusting for the playoffs. Like, block shots go up exponentially once the playoffs start. These guys are sacrificing their bodies like none other. In the regular season, sure, they block the occasional shot, but they're not throwing themselves in front of a 100-mile-per-hour shot the same way in the regular season as they do now. So Heiskanen's been a really good bet for that. So is Tanev, but it's also why he's on a walking boot right now. So even if he does play, I'm not sure if we want to jump in on Tanev with the walking boot on. And a real good play as well has been Jamie Benn over on his assist prop. It's kind of like what we just spoke about with the UFC. So you get a really good price on somebody already, a reasonable price, and you don't want to be known as that guy that's like, I can't be satisfied with a minus 130. I got to turn it into a plus price on something else. But like I said with UFC, I don't think Price wins by points. I think he wins by KO. Well, with Jamie Benn, right now, he's not scoring goals. What he's doing is getting assists, and his assist number is plus 145. If you look at Wyatt Johnston, who keeps on scoring just nonstop for the Dallas Stars, 21 years old, guess who's passing him the puck? The guy that's nearly double his age, Jamie Benn, and he's plus 145 on his assist prop. So I really like that one. And what's been interesting as well is looking at some of the unders for these top players for the Edmonton Oilers. It's been kind of the supporting cast that's really stepped up. Ryan McLeod stepped up. Nugent Hopkins has stepped up. Some of the defensemen. And overall, I'm kind of trying to take unders in the New York and Florida Panthers series. I know, of course, tonight being Friday, Andy, we have the Oilers and Stars. But yesterday I had the under in the game with Rangers and Panthers. But overall, you talked about Zibanejad, Kreider, and those guys. And as far as the Panthers are concerned, too, some of their top guys, their line is still being set at 3.5 shots on goal. If your team is only getting 22, 23, 24 shots, how are that many guys going to get 4 shots on goal? You know, if you've got 3 players at over 3.5 shots on goal, you know, you're asking for 12 shots out of like the 20 shots your team's going to get from the just 3 guys. I think it's definitely a good time right now to be betting unders, especially in that series.
Love it. Love it. We're going to finish up here with some WNBA and CFL props. Andrew, go ahead and tell everyone what you have up. I know you got a promo code for a nice special over at WagerTalk.com.
Andy, a great promo code here. It's already an early bird special. It's already a great discount on the CFL season, but up until kickoff, we're going to use the promo code AMCFL to save $50 off the early bird special. 3 straight profitable seasons in the CFL and a 10-2, 5% CFL run. Totals and sides, 10-2 on the 5% plays. So you guys can follow along. And I really encourage people, especially with a sport like CFL, whether you want to just go week to week, month to month, or take advantage of this great deal, AMCFL, because you know, with CFL, the lines fluctuate so much. It's not like the NFL where you're going to fluctuate like a half a point. We're talking like several points in the CFL from the opener. So you want to take advantage of that. I will have a top play up in the UFC for Saturday. And other than that, guys, make sure you check out Puck Time every single weekday for all of my hockey plays. What about you, Andy? What's going on for you this weekend?
I've got a WNBA best bet that is up there. Honestly, I've got a couple parlays. We've cashed a few legs. We had a really great start to the French Open. We're up 12 units in that, so we're kind of taking it easy, to be honest. There's a bummer of a night last night with with the Caitlin Clark gate. And a couple others, but the UFC show will be up later tonight, and then tomorrow we will have UFC plays as well as a few other sports. But for tonight, we're going to grab some units in the WNBA. There's a couple player props that are up. I have one that is up right now, and I'll wait until a couple of other come out. That's the bummer about the WNBA props. They just don't come out as early as the other ones. Like NBA and NHL, like they're out the night before. But with WNBA and NBA, you got to wait a little bit on that one. So grab the WNBA play. There'll be another one attached to it later today, but really tomorrow is going to be where we're going to do some damage here. We're going to talk CFL. I know a lot of you don't watch CFL or follow it. Andrew and I have been telling you guys for years that this is a moneymaker sport. Like, this is one of those where the lines can be really soft. They do player props. They've started doing more player props than available. I find them to be insanely great parlay pieces. Andrew's 5% plays are like truly spectacular in this sport. So let's talk a little CFL. Like I said, I know it's not going to drive huge ratings, but it is going to help build bankrolls, and that's really what we're here for. So, Andrew, let's talk a little bit of CFL. First off, tell everyone when the season starts. And I'm looking at some season win totals, and I have a strong opinion on one I'd like to get your thought on. So, when's the season start, and what do you like in CFL?
Oh, I love that. I'm looking forward to hearing. Hopefully, we're on the same page, Andy. CFL starts next Thursday. It'll be Alouettes versus Blue Bombers in the opener. Of course, that will be rematch from last year's Grey Cup. So cannot wait for that next Thursday, which is why I wanted to cover some CFL, because we will not be on Prop It Up. But I'll tell you what, every Friday from now on, I will be mentioning CFL props. The past few years on Prop It Up, it was been a little bit iffy. Like, is this book offering it? Is that book offering it? This year, it seems like books are ready to rock. Every week, we're going to have rushing props, receiving props, touchdown scorer props. And Andy, if you want to talk about same game parlays and a way to, make money, I know you parlayed the CFL. If you see a team that's like -7, you could take their like starting running back to score a touchdown and that team to win and just forget about the point spread. Like it's great. Now that props are everywhere, it's really great. But look, I think everywhere is going to be able to get down on some of these win totals. One of my favorite bets is over 7.5 wins for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. This is a team that had a real struggle last year, had a 7-game losing streak. Their defense, though, was phenomenal. It was their offense that really got hurt. And now they've got some depth at the quarterback position. They gave Mason Fines and a couple other guys more opportunity due to Trevor Harris's injury. But it sounds like Trevor Harris is back. He's ready. He's fully healthy. He only had 5 games last year. But when he was out there, he looked great for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They also were the team that lost the closest games last year. The point differential did not work out in their favor. But the biggest signing for them was signing all-star running back AJ Ouellette, who played for Toronto. He got his contract. That's the thing about the CFL. Once you kind of have those couple breakout years, and the Argos, they've already paying so many guys so much money. They didn't want to pay him anymore. He goes out and signs in Saskatchewan, and that's great for them. Because for Trevor Harris, the reason why he got injured, he had no pass protection because they weren't keeping the defense guessing. They were throwing the ball every play. Now that you have an absolute stud and all-star of a running back, I feel like that will make a big difference. They also signed an all-star linebacker, and they upped their defense as well. So over 7.5. And I think a big reason why I like this too is I think Winnipeg in their division and a few other teams get a lot weaker. One of the other teams I'm looking to bet against here this year, Andy, is going to be the Calgary Stampeders under 7.5 wins. I have them getting 5 wins this season. They're a team that, for me, growing up, many years ago, they were a dominant team. They were like what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have been over the last few years. They were in first place every single season. And now that's just simply not the case. They just had a player go down, unfortunately, with an ACL tear, and he's out for the entire season before the regular season even starts. You hate that about football, man. It seems to happen every single season for, every league. But to me, their defense has just not been there. Their pass protection's been brutal. And I think the fact that you're getting 7.5 at some books, it's kind of like a reputation play for them. And, you're going to get so many crappy point spreads against the Ottawa Red Blacks because they haven't improved. If anybody out there thinks that maybe this team is different this year, they're not. They're not different. They're, in fact, worse. All they've done, Andy, this Red Blacks team, they've embraced the rebuild. That's what they've done this year. They don't have older players. They've got younger players. They've embraced the rebuild. Under 6 wins for the Ottawa Red Blacks is a really good one. And then one thing I will say, I'm going to go over 1,100 receiving yards for Eugene Lewis. I think he is unbelievable. He's going to have a very, very good year for the Edmonton Elks, and the Elks are going to take that next step, move forward after they had a few rough years. Their offense looked respectable last year. They've got Trey Ford, McLeod Bethel-Thompson. I think Eugene Lewis is going to be the star on that team, so I look forward to a great one from him. But, Andy, who are you fading or looking forward to betting on this season?
It's Ottawa. They stink. they stink. Their roster's not that good. They weren't good last year. I think the teams that are like you mentioned, Edmonton's better. Some of the teams that are not very good are better. Or is Edmonton going to make a run at the playoffs? Probably not. Can they make some noise? Yeah. Are they going to? They're going to surprise one team, one big name team. But Ottawa just stinks. So 6.5 is where I was looking for that one. So, and as always, you love playing unders, just because if they have any injuries to their quarterback, which it seems like they're very cautious in the CFL with their quarterbacks. In the NFL, it's like you got to break your leg in order to come out, but in CFL, it's like, Oh, he's a little dinged up. He's out for 3 weeks. You're like, what? So, you know what I mean? So no, but it's Ottawa. I listen, the Blue Bombers over 12.5 wins. It's a little bit juicy. It certainly has my attention. I mean, I think they're the clear-cut best team. They smoked this total last year. I think I might go back to it. But again, you're one quarterback injury away from having a really bad stretch with the backup quarterback in that one. So it's Ottawa. I don't think I need to overthink anything. If I'm taking a future in CFL, it's Ottawa. They're bad. So
and worth noting, Andy, that the backup quarterback from Winnipeg from last year, he's now the starter for Ottawa. So if there is an injury for Winnipeg, they don't have a good backup anymore. Yeah, and he wasn't that great in general.
No, I shouldn't say awful, but no, he was not very good. That's not a guy that's going to lead the team to a bunch of wins. No chance. So a couple of WNBA plays, and then we'll get out of here, guys. Once again, if you're watching and you haven't hit the like button, please do that. Leave us a comment as soon as this show is over. It really, really helps us out. Lets us know we're doing a good job for you. Brianna Stewart, under 21.5 points. Andrew, she's only gone over against Indiana this year, 5-2 to the under this year. Last 4 games, she's 3 of 22 from 3-pointers. So my only worry is they're playing the worst team in the league. Could be a good get-right spot. But also, when you got these big numbers, like when you're playing the team like the Mystics or, the Fever, the Sky, like these teams that are bad, other players tend to look at it like, oh, I can get my points now. Like, I'm not going up against the best team. Like, let's get the role players some points. So I think it's a good spot for Brianna Stewart under. And then Breonna Jones over 11.5 points. I really like the trend on this one. She only had 8, 7, and 8 to start the season. She only averaged 6 shots per game. But the last 3 games, she had 27 points in an overtime game, 23 and 18. Now she's averaging 12 shots per game. So her shot attempts are going way up. She does have a tough matchup. Connecticut, really, really good defensive team, number 1 defensive rated, but 11.5. Listen, if I'm going to get 12 shot attempts from her again tonight, yeah, I love this 11.5. So WNBA, off to a pretty good start. I waited a week or so before I started putting in play. So 3-2 to start the year, looking to keep building the bankrolls with those. I think there are hidden gems over the course of the season in WNBA props. So really looking forward to that. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Don't forget to use that promo code for Andrew over at WagerTalk.com. All my plays can be found on the profile, wt.buzz/AL. Quick hyperlink gets you over there. Don't forget to check out the UFC breakdown video that will be up later this evening after face-offs. And then tomorrow we'll get after it with Wager Talk Last Call. Saturday morning, I'll be on there as well, and we'll get ready for a nice day of Saturday profits. Good luck on all your plays. We'll see everyone next week on Prop It Up.